Yo, so guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to American Admits 7 Things Brits Do Better. We're gonna be, I guess, the judge of this because of someone, I guess, all these things I'm gonna know about. I mean, maybe not, maybe there's some of them that I don't know about, but I'll be the judge of that because, I don't know, things that we do better. What things do we do better here? I mean, maybe they've been food quality, maybe, in terms of not filling it with like these crazy chemicals. But other than that, I can't really think off the top of my head anyway. But yeah, we're gonna check this out. Hopefully going to enjoy. And yeah, let's jump into this. Links are in the description to my Patreon as well if you want to see some more of my reactions that I can't post to YouTube. But yeah, let's check this out and see what things she thinks we do better.
And you literally have a whole sandwich and the filling are French fries. I mean, does it get better than that? No, it does not.
Is she talking about chip butties? I do not like chip butties, man. I do not like chip butties. I had a friend who was obsessed with them. He was obsessed with chips in a bun. Why? Just have your chips on their own. It takes away the flavour for me because it's too starchy. And you got to remember, British chips are fat, so they're starchy as hell. Putting that in bread is not good, man. Don't say you're gassing up flipping chip butties. God damn it, man. If that's the best we've got, we are failing. Ow.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Girl Gone London video. If you're new here, my name is Caitlin. I'm an American who's lived in the UK for almost 10 years, and today I'm finally admitting things that the Brits do better than the Americans. Okay, so in my last video, which I felt was pretty neutral and just pointing out the differences between the UK and the US, I got some comments of people saying clearly you don't like the UK, you don't want to be here.
What I've noticed is people just get very, very touchy about their country or whatever they believe in. And it is typically more on the side of Europe. Europeans seem to get, they're very proud, I guess, and they seem to get very offended when someone thinks something's better from another place. And don't get me wrong, there are things that are better in Europe, but there are also things that are better in the rest of the world, or in this case, in the US. And I do feel like both sides, people will get pissed off for reasons that it's not that deep. Come on now, but yeah, some people do get very triggered by these sorts of things.
And I get that a lot, and I think part of it comes down to people not understanding that I'm being lighthearted about how I'm reacting to things in the UK. So I'm just sharing my experiences as an American reacting to certain things. And so obviously that is going to come with some jokes. Sometimes I'm being serious. I do think a US road trip is more fun than a UK road trip. So
I mean, is that a question? You've got the differences in distance. I mean, that's not really a question, is it?
If we disagree, we disagree. But for the most part, it's lighthearted. I don't think that either country is actually better than the other. I think it's a very gray area. And so I wanted to create these videos where I'm just going to list some of the things that I really feel like they do better here in the UK than in the US, just so everybody knows that I do not hate the UK. However, I am also going to do a video of things that the US does better than the UK, so we can argue when we get to that video. Hey guys, briefly interjecting here because I forgot to mention today's question, and today's question is, what is your favorite part about the UK?
I'm not fast.
Is the NHS. The idea here is that medical care is for all, regardless of your ability to pay, and is not a privilege but a right, is 100% better than the state of affairs in the US, which works for people who do have the means to pay for healthcare, but does not work for a lot of people who fall in different areas. The idea here that you have a child and you walk out of the hospital without paying a bill is really astounding.
Is that actually the case? Because I always see differing comments on that sort of stuff. People will say, oh, it depends if you got insurance. Some will be like, no, you won't. Some will be like, yeah, it's ridiculous. I don't understand why it's so many different answers. It should surely be the same answer, whether it's a yes or a no. But how much would that cost, giving birth? Like, if you're someone who's paid for giving birth, because I'm guessing some people can answer this better than others, how much did it cost you? And how long would you have to be in the hospital? Like, would you try and get out of the hospital as soon as possible to pay less or stuff like this? Is that sort of a thing that happens or what?
To a lot of Americans, and after moving here and living with the NHS and getting accustomed to that way of life, you know, obviously paying for it in other areas and your taxes and things, but the idea that I don't have to worry about how much the ambulance is going to cost me is 100% something that the UK does much better than the US. Okay, the next thing is the cost of food in the supermarket / grocery store.
Cheaper.
So if you've ever traveled to the US as a Brit, you probably, if you stepped foot in a grocery store, would be shocked by the food prices. Here in the UK, food in the grocery store in particular is so much less expensive.
Really? I would have thought it would be a similar price. But the US probably imports less food, which should mean it would be cheaper there. I mean, I guess the more you know, right?
Than in the US. Something that in the US would cost like $2 to $3 for like a loaf of bread or something would be like 50p to maybe a pound here. So when Americans are coming over and thinking about their budget for food in the UK, usually we spend a lot less than you would in the US. We spend about £200 per month on food for 2 people, and sometimes we do spend less than that.
What? Who spends £200 per month on food for 2 people? Now, I eat a lot, but I do not spend anywhere close to that. Is she talking about herself or talking about Americans?
In the US, I really don't think that would get you a month's worth of...
I mean, I don't know where you're shopping. Maybe you're going to the cheapest of cheap places. But even then, £200... I mean, fair enough. I wish I could spend that much. I wish I was good with spending that much for food and stuff, but I'm not spending anywhere close to that.
Food for 2 people just because of the prices. So in that way, I definitely think the UK is better than the US. Okay, the next thing on my list may seem a little bit trivial, but for somebody who loves French fries / chips, yes, I know they're not the same thing, British people, I do understand, but as an American, we would call anything that is a fried potato a French fry. We wouldn't differentiate between, we don't have another word, we would just call it like thick cut French fries maybe. Anyway, here in the UK, I feel like they pair French fries / chips with so many things that we wouldn't in the US, which I am a total fan of. So for instance, what they would call a chip buddy, translated...
Chip buddies aren't good, man. Oh, god damn it. They're too starchy. No.
...into American would be a French fry sandwich. They've got thick cut French fries on a sandwich, and they eat it with ketchup or with salt, or someone told me the other day like vinegar, and you literally have a whole sandwich and the filling are French fries. I mean, does it get better than that? No, it does not. Another thing they tend to pair fries with here that I've noticed is they will have pizza and fries.
Would we? I mean, you don't really get those options. When you order from pizza places, you don't get those options. So I don't know where. I mean, you do have like sides of fries. Like whenever you go to a restaurant, fries or chips will always be a side option. But with pizza, I mean, some people probably do it, but I've not seen it as like a common thing.
As one meal, pizza and chips, they would call it. That's not really a combo that we do in the US. We would maybe have like maybe you would have pizza and garlic bread, so we do get like the double carbs in there, but pizza and fries would just it's just seen as like a weird combination, but it's the best combination because what could possibly be better than eating an entire meal of pizza and fries? So I feel like the US should really get on board with this. I'm not saying people don't do it, I'm just saying it's definitely not a popular combination.
I don't think that's really a set thing. I think it's just some people probably have it and then some people don't. I've never had fries with pizza. If I have pizza, I'm only having pizza. I don't want more shit in my body.
That people automatically go to, and I really feel like this is one of the best things the UK has done for the world. Okay, the next thing that is much better in the UK than in the US is public transportation, or what they would call public transport for short.
From what I've learned, this is very fair. I understand the reasons behind it, but yeah, this is very, very valid.
You can get around almost the whole of the UK by trains.
Why does that always pop up? I'm just pressing pause on my... on my flipping keyboard.
Boats, buses. You don't have to have a car. Obviously, in the more rural areas, it is definitely like much more convenient to have a car. Tons of people drive and not just rely on public transportation. But the point remains that if you lived in a lot of places in the States and you didn't have a car, you would have almost no options. Here in the UK, you can live in a lot of places without a car. And I'm not just talking about London. I'm not just talking about cities. You could live in a more suburban area and have plenty of buses that are going to connect you to your town and to surrounding towns that are relatively, on time, on a good schedule. In the US, I'm used to bus transportation. Where I'm from in Florida, basically non-existent, and if it is existent, it's just not something that people take. It's not necessarily reliable. Here, public transportation is often used, is popular, is reliable, and obviously it's easier to link a smaller country than all of America.
See, that's what I mean. It's obviously for reasons, right? But my girlfriend will literally get the bus every morning. She goes to work outside her house. It goes into the city. She then has to. It links up to a bus that the stops next to her anyway, and then she gets that bus to her work. And that's how she always gets back and forth from work, unless if she's getting lifts from someone or someone's offering to drive her home. Is that a thing in the US? Will you ever get the buses to work? I guess you have like the underground or the metro or whatever, but is that a thing at all, or is that not even really an option? I wonder. And people like going to school. Obviously, you've got school buses in the US, but in the UK, you just get the buses like any other bus pretty much. You wouldn't have a specific bus for schools. I guess it isn't a thing. I guess for school, obviously you have the school buses, but maybe you don't like have options to get the bus to work and back and all that sort of stuff in like major cities and stuff, or in just normal cities, not even major cities, just average sized cities, because I guess in major cities you have the undergrounds and stuff.
But it is what it is, and the UK wins for that one. The next thing that's better in the UK than in the US is the type of roofs that they have on their homes, only because in the US, we are used to needing to replace our roof like every 10 to 15 years, I think it is. Particularly
I didn't know that.
The area where I'm from in Florida, this is a common way to do roofs. In the UK, you don't necessarily think about replacing your roof. No one's ever brought that up in like the house buying process of this roof will need to be replaced or anything like that. So I'm not entirely sure the differences between the roofs. I know here they have like much thicker like blocks that they use on the roof, whereas in the US we kind of use like these flimsy roof tiles. It could also be they're not exposed to the same amount of extreme weather as in the US. I know in Florida we have to contend with like hurricanes and
Actually, I guess it does make sense, because if you have the maybe more higher quality stuff that's still going to get ruined anyway, there's no point putting it in your roof because it's just going to get destroyed, right? I guess that's kind of a reason behind it, which does make sense, because it would just cost more money for no reason.
Heat and things like that. It's a bit more mild here in the UK, so maybe that plays into it. But overall, your roof is not going to be like a huge expense that you have to shell out for as soon as you buy your house, and you don't really have to factor that into your budget. So it's a very specific thing, but it is something that's better here in the UK. Okay, the next thing that's better in the UK is work-life balance. So in America,
I can't really relate to this because I work. This is my job anyway, so I'm not really like the average. Like I don't work in like a supermarket, or I don't work in an office. I don't have like a typical job, so I can't really compare this because I've not. Other than when I worked at McDonald's when I was really young and I hated it, and it was only for 3 months because it was that bad. I can't really compare, so I can't really relate to this either way.
America, we definitely have a go-getter culture, which I do like in some ways, but when it comes to the work-life balance, it's not good whatsoever. We don't have federal required vacation time or holiday time, as they would say here in the UK. Lots of companies will have like an allocated number of sick days, and after you reach the end of your sick days, then you have to start using your vacation time, or you basically don't get paid. Here in the UK, most companies, like if you're sick, you're sick. Obviously, if it's an ongoing problem, they'll work with you, but you're not freaking out that you're going to use up all of your time. In fact, there is a rule, I believe, that if you are on holiday, if you're using holiday time and you get sick or ill, as they say here, because getting sick in the UK is like throwing up, but Americans say getting sick to mean getting ill. If you get ill during vacation time or holiday time, I'm pretty sure you can like claim back part of those holiday days.
I don't know, to be honest. That sounds like it's too good to be true, but if that's the case, that's obviously good. But I've never heard of that. And I've never had to do it because I don't work for a company.
And use your sick day and just take it as a sick day instead. But in general, there's not this hustle culture of you need to, you know, like dedicate your entire life to your job. I think people here recognize that there is more to life than work. And I mean, obviously the cultures play into it and what we prioritize and what we see as important in life and important qualities to have as a person. But definitely in the UK, you're not always worried that you're going to lose your job because of something stupid. It's pretty difficult to actually fire somebody here after they've worked here for a long time. And you just have a better work-life balance overall in many areas. And the last difference I came up with, again, might seem more trivial, but it has to do with a UK plug. So a UK plug, 1 minute, I will show you. If you're an American, this is what a UK plug looks like. So it actually has this third bit. So if you can kind of see 1, 2, and 3.
I have heard the UK plugs are better for something. I don't know, what is it, safety or something?
A US plug only has 2 plug-in things, is that the official term? So plugs here tend to stay in the wall a lot better than in the US, where
is that a problem where plugs would just fall out?
it can be a problem for them falling out if they're pretty loose or get knocked by something. A UK plug is like not falling out of whatever.
It's like a claw. It's like stayed in. I've never had any problems. I mean, it's got to the point where so we were moving my bed in our bed. We were moving it this way and there was a plug in the wall, but the bed was against the wall and we didn't really clock what was happening. So we pulled the bed, the plug stayed in, but the metal things kind of bent. So it was still in, but it bent. Luckily it didn't damage the socket, but the plug was destroyed. But they're that strong and sturdy, they won't fall out like that. They just stay in. And yeah, it just bent a bit. And it was a full ass bed just being pushed into it, which is pretty wild to think about. But yeah, I mean, is that a positive or a negative? I guess it's a positive because maybe in the US the metal bit would get stuck in the socket. Maybe, I don't know, but yeah, that's something, I guess, a difference. But why are there so many different sockets around the world? Is it just because there's different sort of engineering behind different countries for their electrics and stuff?
It's plugged into, and again, it's a small thing, but something that I have noticed and I do think is better in the UK than in the US. Okay, so that brings me to the end of my video.
Okay, so that's the positives for the UK. She says she's done one the other way around, so I'm probably going to react to that now. And then I'll post probably this one first and then that one second, but you'll see it either way anyway. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. And if you're someone who's travelled from the US to the UK and you have certain opinions, let me know your thoughts, because it's always cool to hear someone's opinions on this stuff. Or if you're someone who lives in the UK, or vice versa, but maybe save the vice versa for when I do the reaction, if I can find it, to the other way around. But hopefully enjoyed, and yeah, until next time, like, subscribe, peace.